Hi everyone and welcome to your free masterclass. Today we'll be taking a look at how we can make your brand stand out with the use of 3D in your creative outputs. First up, we're going to start off with the basics. You'll need a 3D program to create this, and my weapon of choice is Cinema4D. You can download it here at maxon.net and get a free trial for 14 days. Otherwise, there's many options for 3D programs such as Blender, Maya, Houdini, and more. Their prices range and the learning curve can sometimes be steep. But for this, we'll just use Cinema4D, which is an industry standard. So to download this, you want to go to the try section, hit download Maxon app, and you've got 14 days to try it out. All right, next thing we need to do is set up a folder structure where all your moving parts are going to live. I've got one pre-made here, but feel free to set it up in your own way as long as it's all together. Basically, what I've done here is I have a reference folder where any blueprints or photography of your product will go, or even reference images that you find from the internet. The assets folder, inside the assets folder, we've got AI, which stands for Adobe Illustrator. It's not artificial intelligence. So that's where any of your Illustrator files, maybe you've got an artwork from the graphic design department, goes in there. Cinema4D, which is where your master 3D file will live. Image, just in case you're working with a flattened artwork image and you don't have an Illustrator file, usually export it to image anyway. And PSD, which is where the final Photoshop composite will live. That's where we'll do our final editing of the image. Now, once you've got that set up, let's find our product. We're going to create the classic time-tested 375mm can. So first up, let's open up our search engine of choice and type in 375mm can dimensions. You want to go to the image search section and make sure that the sizes are set to large because you want to deal with sharp images. That one looks pretty good. Now I've already pre-downloaded a bunch of images, so I'll just show you these for reference. Here we go, 375mm as well as any other references that you may want to build. In general, when you're doing product modeling, you may want to get something from the manufacturer that looks like this. If you can, that'll help for the correct measurements and any details that you can't see. But if not, something like this is perfectly fine. The next thing you need is the can top. Seeing as we don't have the reference for the can top, I'm going to type in can top. I would select this one. That looks pretty good. It's got a nice shape to it. You can see the bevels, you can see the shine, any other detail. And you want to save that one. And the last thing that we need is a couple of references for the overall look of the can. So let's type in 375mm can again. And we've got a bunch of different styles. They're all practically the same can with different artwork on it. Let's go for the standard Coke can here. You can save that one. This one is a good reference because you can see there's a bit of detail here in the edging. You can see it's slightly rounded. You can see some depth, reflection. That's very good. If you're making a can that has a different finish, maybe say for example a matte finish. Let's see if we've got something with a matte finish here. Wild turkey, there we go. Yeah, there's a bit of a matte finish on this can, so you would use this as a reference when you're creating a material for your can. Like I said, the base of the can is always the same. The only difference really is the material and your artwork. So go ahead and save that and we'll get into the next section. Now that we've got Cinema4D downloaded, I'm going to give you a quick overview of how the scene layout works and how to just generally control your scene. So the first thing we're going to do is scroll. So use the middle mouse scroll when you're using a mouse to zoom in and zoom out. Just to help you get an idea of the depth of the scene, I'll just select this primitive here, which will give you a cube. So now we're zooming into the cube, zooming out of the cube, pretty basic stuff. If you want to pan around, or sorry, if you want to grab and move your scene around just like this, it's Alt and middle click and just move with the mouse. The next thing we can do is Alt left click and we can pan and roll around the scene. Helps for going around, seeing if everything's perfect. Now that we're familiar with how to navigate the scene, what we're going to do is place our reference images into the background and get ready to build. The first thing you want to do is you see the top right section here, there's a square which will split your scene into 4 different views: top, front, right, and perspective. You can also select the middle mouse button, which can easily swap between scenes. So for example, if you didn't click the middle mouse button, you could select this square and it'll do the exact same thing. All right, now what we're going to do is just press Alt V, and that's going to bring up the options for this viewport. So make sure you've selected the background so that this part becomes highlighted and you can actually do something. If it's not highlighted, it could be that you're in the perspective view or you haven't selected the background. So make sure you've done that. The next thing we're going to do is go to the folder section, navigate to our references folder, and we'll select our blueprint. Here we've got the blueprint. I've already set up the transparency. Normally it would come up like this, but I like to work a little bit transparent. You can move the object around. I've already moved it to the middle here. So make sure you scale it up to whatever size you see fit. Scaling in Cinema4D isn't as important as it is in CAD programs where it's made exactly to the right dimensions. Because Cinema4D is generally a visualization program, the sizing doesn't exactly matter. You can see down the bottom right, it says grid spacing 100 centimeters, but it could say 10,000, it could say 1 centimeter, but the 3D object is going to look exactly the same. All right, so let's adjust this and make sure that the can is sitting on this red line, which is the horizon. So you've got your X, which is up and down, Y, which is left to right, and Z, which is the depth that you can't actually see in this scene. All right, let's get started.